don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hi guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD with my wonderful, lovely co-host,
hello, JD.
Melissa. How are you, bud?
Good. How are you?
Doing great.
Good. Good. Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. I'm super excited to share this next guest with you guys. We have Deji Hambolu, and he's kind of a younger real estate investor, superstar phenom. He's been able to acquire a portfolio of over 34 units, millions of dollars in assets. He's the founder and CEO of High Quality Assets, and he started, much like a lot of you, from a full-time W-2 position. And I'm sure he has a ton of information to share with you guys on how to make that happen and achievable. Deji, man, thank you so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me. Like I told you too before, I'm a big fan of your work. I love what you do. And I'm really excited to, be given the opportunity to share with your audience today.
We are too.
Yeah, awesome. So for those in our audience who maybe don't know who you are or kind of what has led you to this point, can you give us like a brief rundown of, where you started, where you're at now, and what's important for our listeners to know?
Sure. Absolutely. So where I started, I typically always have to kind of think about that one because I could go all the way back. But just to share some context, I was born in Maryland, over in the DMV area. When I was 7 years old, my whole family moved to Nigeria, where my parents were from. And we all moved back to kind of get that upbringing, the culture, learn the culture, have that upbringing. The education system at a young age is pretty awesome there as well. So I moved over there, came back to the U.S. for college. Believe it or not, I was actually 15 when I finished high school. So when I got here to go to Georgia Tech, I was too young. My parents wanted me to kind of transition in a more seamless approach. So I actually got into I started off at a community college before moving to Georgia Tech, where I ultimately graduated. I studied engineering not because I really wanted to be an engineer, but because I thought it was one of the easiest paths to making decent money, to where I'd be able to discover what I wanted to do and then get into that. So that's what I did. And my first year working, my first job was actually at Coca-Cola. I was working at the headquarters as a supply chain, manager in some rotation program, and it was great. Great. I had a lot of great exposure, and the stuff that I was working on was cool, but I ultimately didn't want to always have to exchange my time and presence for money, right? So I think that's the root of why I ultimately set on a path to real estate. And my first year working at Coca-Cola, I knew I had to get started. I didn't know how, but I did know one person who was involved with it, through a friend who went to school with me. And ended up, taking the last $2,500 I had in my name to employ him to mentor me, which is what he did. And, I just followed his steps. I started, learning more along the way, and I started buying property, and here I am today.
Awesome. So you started working for Coca-Cola, then you started investing in real estate. Were you just buying deals off the MLS? Were you sourcing your own deals? Were you working with other people? What did that early real estate business look like to you?
Yeah, so in the beginning, it was a little bit of everything, right? So I started learning, and as I was learning, I started kind of casting my net out there, started building relationships with wholesalers. I started building relationship with real estate agents that are investor friendly. I started actually doing some off market direct campaigns as well. But my first deal actually came from another wholesaler that I had met at a networking event.
Mhm.
He brought me a deal, and I used hard money at the time to purchase the property and to renovate the property. And then I actually ended up selling it because when I first started, I was very eager to flip houses, which is ironic because now I do very little of that.
Yes, as few flips as possible.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now the main strategy is value add investing. With multifamily units, and it really started with single family as I kind of learned the long game of building wealth, right? As you two are very familiar with, by employing the BRRRR strategy. So I was doing a lot of buying, renovating, renting them out, and then refinancing. But specifically, when I rent out property, whether it was single family or multifamily now, I do majority of Section 8,
Mhm.
right? So I actually get paid from the Housing and Urban Development. I partner with the Atlanta Housing Authority. They provide the tenants, and the government cuts me the checks every month. So that's been a scalable kind of strategy for me, and gives me the confidence to move forward and get more property.
Sure, that
That's
makes
awesome.
sense.
Yeah.
I know a lot of really good investors with huge portfolios that just use either the Section 8 housing, or there's some veteran programs that they use to support that. That's great. Um, okay, well, when you're saying multifamily, are you meaning small multifamily, like 5 units and below, or 4 units and below, or do you mean 10, 20, 30 unit properties? What does your portfolio look like now?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So my portfolio actually started off with one duplex. So I started off with a duplex. Kind of actually similar to your story. I know you mentioned you start off with a duplex, you created equity, you bought a few more, and that's how mine went. I believe mine was with one duplex. I remember getting it for about 100,000, maybe spending about 50,000 in renovation. Then the ARV was about 340. And I took out some equity. I bought a triplex within a mile of the same area. Then a year later, that same property, that same duplex went up another 80,000 or something crazy like that. And the cash flow on it was really good. So I was able to tap into the added equity. And then I bought actually three more duplexes on the same street became available by the same owner at the same
Wow.
time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was it was like the perfect combination, right, of when comps went up and when the property became available, when the portfolio properties became available. So I got those three duplexes, and then I got a quad, and then a couple 6 units, and yeah, now I'm underwriting 20-unit apartments, 30-unit apartments, and yeah, that's what it's looking like now. But that's exactly how it kind of started off.
It's just a snowball effect, which I think maybe, for somebody just starting out, or a beginning level investor that still has their W-2 job, that seems like an unobtainable goal, that you're underwriting 20 and 30 unit apartment complexes right now. But seeing that you started with a duplex and then just slowly upgraded your portfolio to some of these bigger deals, how did you find time while you're working a full-time job to be able to do that? Like, it's not easy. You're working a full-time job, and then you gotta work another full-time job, only this one's for yourself. How did you find time to do that? What was your process? What did that look like?
Yeah, yeah, great question. And I guess to touch uh, on the point that you made that it could seem unattainable, and it surely did. I remember listening to Bigger Pockets and hearing people in similar situations thinking, "Wow, how did they do that, and how is that even possible?" But the truth is, it's kind of like a snowball effect, You hear it all the time, and it really is like that. And you just need one property to go up 100,000, 200,000, and then, reinvest into the right properties. And then from then on, everything changes. But as far as how I was able to kind of juggle the two while I was, working my full-time jobs is I treated it as a as I treated it as seriously as I treated my jobs, and even more seriously. I spent after work doing the kind of researches that I needed to do to find the property. I made sure that I worked with, the right team members, people who could allow me to really truly engage in it as an investment rather than a business. I think was also instrumental. So I hired, you know, the right contractors to do the jobs. At the time prior to me getting my license, I worked with an investor friendly real estate agent, which is very different from your traditional regular real estate agent. I like to always point that out. So so that helped a lot. Just working with the right people, setting aside times. I think I was big on lunch breaks, going out to look at property when I had the time to. This was before COVID happened, actually. So people actually had to go into the offices then. So it was kind of harder then, actually, now that I think about it, because now everybody works from home. But, I would spend after work hours, spend an hour or two on site, learning from the contractors. And then weekends were also huge for me, right? So on weekends, I was using the weekends to network, build relationships, check job sites, and get some coaching and mentorship at the same time. So it was really just juggling the two was after work and on weekends, really.
Yeah, that's great. That's the way it was for me for quite a few years, before I was able to leave the Air Force and do it full time. And I think every person that I've ever talked to that was like, "Wow, how do you find time?" You don't find time, you make the time, right? Like you're giving up your lunches, you're giving up your evenings and your weekends. That's how you do it. But if it's way easier, at least for me, to work 12 or 14 hours on a Saturday and Sunday for myself than it is for me to work 8 hours or 12 hours for a different
Yes.
person. So it's where your priorities lie, I guess, is kind of the secret to that.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. You don't find the time, you make the time. That's absolutely correct. So just as you set schedule for other things in your life that's important, you set a schedule and you make time for this as well.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure. We used to
Absolutely.
do it at one until 1 or 2 in the morning when JD had to work during day shift.
Oh man.
You know,
Wow.
going over all of our leads and deals and everything. Um, okay, so what are you looking for now? What does your business look like? What does your team look like now? You're doing this full time at this point, right? So
Yeah.
what does your day-to-day business look like?
Oh man, one of the things I love about this business or this industry is every day looks very different in a way, right? So you come across new problems, you learn new solutions in the process. But typically, my day surrounds around real estate, right? So whether I'm talking to sellers, about their buildings that I'm trying to either buy, or I'm talking to, agents on transactions that I'm currently involved in, or I'm talking to investors raising capital, looking for people to, who would like to partner on deals. Another huge piece of my day these days has also been in terms of coaching, right? So as I get coaching from my mentors and as I get mentoring from my mentors, I try my best to also send that to also pay that forward. So I coach people as well. So I'm talking to people during the day. I'm talking to their sellers, their agents. I'm talking to appraisers. I'm just fully immersed in it now, which is great. And every day is different, but I'm usually talking to one of those 7, 8 people, as well as my team of contractors and vendors. Right. So you asked a little bit about what my team looks like. Right now, I do have 4 agents that I work with, so other licensed agents as well that I work with. Um, I have two licensed contractors with a crew of about an average of maybe 8 people on their team. So that's another 16. And then, of course, I work with closing attorneys, title companies, getting title stuff, done. And then, of course, working, talking to investors as well as sellers.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And what you did mention there that I want to ask you is you mentioned before and just now that you're a licensed agent. So how are you leveraging being an agent to help you in your business? What are the benefits that you see? Because there's a huge debate always going on. Should I get my license? Should I not get my license? How are you leveraging your license?
No, that's a great question. And I think for me, so I actually got my license maybe 3 years after I started investing. So I started investing, and then at some point it just kind of hit me like, whoa, like, that I could be earning 3% and, leveraging that for my closing costs. I think that was the biggest aha moment for me. And the reason why I got it. But now it's kind of transitioned into a little bit more than that, because now I'm not only able to schedule showings for myself and to earn, commissions for deals that I'm working on, but I'm also able to leverage my license to help other people as well. Right. So the people that I coach, I'm able to help them, go on the MLS, find, properties and get details and useful resources as well. So yeah, I found it to be very helpful for me and for my business as far as helping other people in the process.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So I know we covered quite a few different things, but you did mention that you're doing your coaching and some of that other stuff. If some of our audience wanted to find out more about you, more about your coaching and some of the deals you're doing, I know you're also looking for private money investors and that kind of stuff. Where would we send them to get in contact with you or to find out more about you and what you got going on?
Sure. So 2 main places I'd say. The first place would be I'm very active on Instagram. So for those of you who are and would like to reach out to me on there. It's going to be at deji.ceo. That's DEJI.ceo. And then also on my website, dejihambolu.com.
Awesome. Deji, hey, man, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story with us and with our listeners. We really appreciate it, man.
No, thanks for having me, man. And like I said, I love what you guys are doing. I love the information you shared with me prior to this. So thank you so much for that value you've given me. And hopefully I've been able to share some value with your audience as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.